Spending money used to feel social. Now it feels strategic. For a growing number of people, saying I can't afford that isn't embarrassing anymore. It's intentional. And that shift is changing how money moves. In this story, you'll understand why a generation raised on social media is suddenly rejecting unnecessary spending, how inflation and pressure quietly rewired everyday behavior, and why loud budgeting isn't about being cheap. It's about taking control back. You'll see how one ordinary household made the shift, what finally broke the cycle of silent overspending, and why this movement feels uncomfortable to some people, but freeing to others. If you've ever spent money just to avoid feeling awkward, stay with me. This is Evan Brooks. He's 27 years old, lives in Phoenix, Arizona, single. He works as a customer operations analyst for a mid-sized tech services company. Evan earns $62,000 a year. Not struggling, not wealthy, right in the middle. On paper, Evan should feel fine. He has a steady job, health insurance, a paycheck that shows up on time, no dramatic debt spiral, no obvious financial mistakes, the kind of situation people point to and say, "You're doing okay." But for a long time, Evan didn't feel okay. He felt tight, not broke, just tense, like his money was always one step ahead of him, deciding things before he had a chance to think. Like the month reset too quickly, like progress kept getting postponed. Evan's spending didn't look reckless. It looked normal. Coffee on the way to work because everyone grabbed one. Lunch out because the team ordered together. Group dinners on weekends because staying home felt like opting out of life. Ubers instead of driving because parking was annoying. Streaming subscriptions because canceling them never felt urgent. Nothing extravagant, nothing headline-worthy, just habits that blended into the background. That's what made it hard to question. Evan wasn't buying things he didn't want. He was buying things he didn't stop to choose. Money left his account in small, familiar ways. $10 here, $25 there. A split bill that always leaned a little higher than expected. Each charge felt harmless on its own. Together, they formed a pattern Evan never named. He told himself this was adulthood. This was what it cost to live in a city, to have a social life, to not be the person who always says no, and so he went along. And he didn't check his balance often because nothing looked alarming. He didn't budget tightly because nothing felt out of control. He didn't panic because panic didn't seem appropriate. That's how drift begins. Evan noticed it most on Sundays, when he thought about the week ahead and felt tired before it started, when saving felt theoretical, when plans lived in the future instead of the calendar. He wasn't falling behind. He just wasn't moving forward. And that's the most confusing place to be financially, when you're doing everything that looks right, but nothing feels like it's working. Evan didn't know it yet, but his problem wasn't income. It was silence. Silence around spending. Silence around pressure. Silence around the fact that normal had quietly become expensive. And once he finally noticed that, everything began to change. Ubers instead of driving. Streaming subscriptions he barely watched. Nothing extravagant. Nothing dramatic. Just life. Paid for digitally. That's the part nobody warns you about. Overspending doesn't announce itself with a luxury purchase. It hides inside routines. Most of Evan's spending wasn't about desire. It was about belonging. Friends suggested places. Group chats picked plans. Everyone split the bill evenly. Saying no felt awkward. Saying, "I'll sit this one out," felt like admitting something was wrong. Evan went along, and the money left quietly. Then prices started changing. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Groceries cost a little more. Gas crept up. Rent renewal hit harder than expected. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, everyday essentials have risen faster than wages in recent years, squeezing purchasing power even for people with steady incomes. Evan felt it before he could explain it. The same habits cost more now. Nothing broke, but nothing bent anymore either. His checking account stopped recovering between paychecks. Savings stalled. Credit cards filled small gaps. Evan wasn't panicking. He was adjusting. That's how drift begins. Evan assumed things would ease on their own, that the tightness would pass the same way it showed up, that prices would level off, that his paycheck would eventually catch up. But they didn't. The higher costs stuck around. They stopped feeling surprising and started feeling normal. And once something feels normal, you stop fighting it. One night, Evan was stretched out on his couch, phone in hand. No plan, no intention. Just scrolling through videos, letting the noise of the day fade out. That's when something small caught his attention, and he saw someone say something simple. "I'm not broke, I'm just not spending money on things that don't matter to me." No shame, no apology, just clarity. That line stayed with him. Loud budgeting isn't yelling about money, it's naming boundaries out loud. It's saying, "I'm skipping that. I'm saving right now. That's not in my budget," and not explaining yourself afterward. For Evan, that idea felt radical. The first time Evan tried it, his voice shook. Friends planned a weekend trip, hotels, flights, dinners. Evan said, "I'm sitting this one out. I'm saving." No long story, no apology, just a sentence. The room went quiet. Then someone else said, "Honestly, same." That surprised him. Here's what Evan noticed next. Nothing bad happened. Nothing bad happened. That was the surprising part. No one pushed him away. No one called him out. The moment passed and life kept moving. Evan realized the tension he'd been bracing for had mostly been his own. The awkwardness, the fear of being judged, it all lived in his head. Once that pressure lifted, something shifted. Spending stopped feeling automatic. Choices felt lighter. This wasn't a trend he stumbled into randomly. It came from months of quiet pressure building up, waiting for a release. And when it finally showed up, it felt less like rebellion and more like relief. Student loans, rent increases, inflation, stagnant wages. Gen Z didn't invent money stress. They just stopped pretending it wasn't there. Here's the truth most people miss. Inflation doesn't punish income first, it punishes behavior. The habits that worked 5 years ago don't survive higher prices. Evan didn't need more money, he needed different defaults. Evan didn't cut everything. He chose. He cooked more. He skipped group spending that didn't matter to him. He canceled subscriptions he forgot existed. Nothing extreme, just intentional. For the first time, Evan saw trade-offs clearly. Every $40 dinner out wasn't just $40. It was less savings, more stress later, another month of drift. Once he saw that, choices got easier. As spending slowed, credit card balances stopped creeping up. Not because Evan became disciplined overnight, but because pressure dropped. When spending aligns with values, willpower isn't required. Something unexpected happened. Evan felt lighter, not richer, clearer. Money stopped being a source of quiet shame, and it became a tool again. Loud budgeting makes people uncomfortable because it exposes unspoken norms. It breaks the illusion that everyone's fine, and not everyone wants that illusion broken. Older generations sometimes call it cheap. Younger people call it honest. Neither side is wrong. They're responding to different economic realities. Evan still spends money. He still enjoys life. But now spending is chosen, not automatic. This isn't just Evan. It's millions of people quietly resetting expectations. Less performance, more intention, less pretending, more control. Have you ever spent money just to avoid explaining yourself? Drop your response in the comments section. Loud budgeting isn't rebellion, it's adaptation. It's what happens when reality finally gets acknowledged. Spending doesn't define your worth, but avoiding conversations about money can define your stress. Control starts the moment honesty becomes normal. We post real finance stories every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one that could save you money or years. If this story felt familiar, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Catch you in the next story.